They're all right behind him.
All kinds of competitors. It looks like 6 or 7 men with a shot. The sprint coming up. There's the finish line, and we'll wait and see if indeed it was the Team 711. It did not appear to be their rider out in front. We're looking to see if Davis Finney. No, it appears to be someone else. We're double checking here to see from our vantage point. Gaggioli, the Italian, may well have been the man who represents a Swiss team who picks up the 15-second overall bonus. We'll be awaiting a confirmation on that, but Gaggioli appeared to be the rider who will get the 15-second bonus.
Right now we have an attempt.
Average. This is the second road stage in the Tour de Trump, the second of 10 stages. There was a prologue that kicked things off in Albany, New York on Friday night. A road stage on Saturday, a 123-mile test today. Across northern New Jersey, nearly 50 miles out from New York City. And we're seeing riders continually test each other now. They've been pushing the pace after that time bonus sprint some miles back. And it would seem as if a little strategy perhaps is now being played out, Cliff.
Well, they're testing the field. This is Alex Tita up here. He's testing the field. The Soviets are pushing the front all the time. They're pushing the pace. If something doesn't go, the Soviets are taking off. Orovitz is up there. They're just feeling each other out, keeping the field stretched out far.
Alex Tita was up there. We saw momentarily. Jim Copeland is also been up along with Greg Orovitz. Orovitz is second in this particular group in the blue and white jersey at the moment. And Copeland figured in one of those pushes at the midway point and for several miles yesterday. Got away from the field, but then was reeled in eventually by the pack and did not figure in the main sprint for top honors in New Paltz, New York.
They've got a long way to go. I wouldn't expect this break to continue, but it could.
There are 5 riders that we see here, and it looks like now they're starting to form up where they'll begin to work together.
Yeah, they've got some distance now. If they can get around some of these curves, if they can possibly get out of sight, they've got a better chance.
Working on what appears to be some uphill terrain, a bit of a climb. These are basically rolling hills, nothing really pronounced, not as dramatic as we saw on that first stage yesterday. You get a nice idea of the relationship there as we saw the main pack and we come back up to the leaders.
Now, Gary, in this entire stage, we've got a rolling terrain. It's up and down. It's up and down a lot, but it doesn't have any of the major climbs like we saw yesterday.
Trying to look and pick up frame numbers here as they go by. Here's a rider in need of some support, and this is the overall leader of the race, the Soviet amateur Ekimov. Can't tell if he has a flat or if he's got another problem. He seems to be moving around back there, talking perhaps even just strategy, but he has now dropped well back behind the rest of the field. Apparently no mechanical problem, or maybe he's going to go over to the opposite side and let the support vehicle move up. Indeed, he's having to make a stop. There is a significant problem here. The front wheel comes off. Here comes the replacement just like that. We're seeing the overall leader of the Tour de Trump being serviced now. He's had to stop for about 10 seconds, and now he'll have to work hard to pass all of the support vehicles to catch back up with the pack. This means he's going to have to expend a good deal of energy. How significant in your mind would this event be?
Well, this is a very difficult chase for him to get back in because we've got that group of 5 off the front. They're really pushing the pace hard. They've got a bit of a climb here. He's got to get past all of those cars, all the support cars, and get back into the back of the field, and that doesn't get him to the breakaway.
He's got a twofold task. You can see that initial group of 5 has now been caught by, it appears, another 4 or 5 riders, and then there's a little break back to the rest of the pack. And then remember that Ekimov is behind all of them, so he has really double duty now, trying to forge his way back into the competition. Ekimov figured in that time bonus. He got a 5-second bonus as a 3rd place finisher in the sprint bonus, and that was way back in Madison at the 45.5-mile mark. But right now he's going to need that 5 seconds and more, trying to work his way back up, and we'll try to keep a camera back there from time to time and see how he's doing. This is the second chase group right now, and it looks like they're quickly now swallowing back up that initial group that tried to get away.
Gary, this is where we're going to find out. When we were talking about the team tactics and the Soviets being a bit inexperienced in this, we're going to find out whether that Soviet team can help get him back up in the field, and on the other side help slow down the front of it so he has a better chance and it doesn't kill him to get in.
Well, it appears now that initial group, there were 5 for a few moments, and then it grew to about 10, and now everybody is back together, and we're anxiously waiting to find out whether or not Ekimov has been able to catch back up. Now another man pushing the pace a little bit. That was Alexei Grayval
going off
yes,
the front.
making a break and attack on the left side, and so one after another they continue to push the pace. testing each other here as they roll across northern New Jersey, headed for eastern Pennsylvania.
A rider, I can't tell who it is, 7-Eleven coming up.
So the attacks continue through Jockey Hollow, New Jersey. And we'll be back to keep up with more coverage in this second stage of the Tour de Trump. The midway point of this second road stage in the Tour de Trump, from New York City, where they started earlier in the day, to eastern Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley. Alexei Graywall, we're watching him closely, was at the head of the pack moments ago. There are a group here of about 14 or 15 riders that have separated themselves from the rest of the field, and they have obviously done so trying to get as much distance between themselves and the overall race leader, Vyacheslav Ekimov. We saw Ekimov have the problem. He had to have the front wheel replaced. He's been battling to catch up with the main pack while this group tries to ride away. And we're into some rugged terrain now. The road has become much more narrow, the narrowest we've seen thus far. There's water on the road, and it appears to be rough pavement. All of these are factors, Cliff, that could enter into the strategy of this competition.
Evidently, Alexei got the word from his teammates that Ekimov had a problem. He had that wheel changed a little while back. And he took off. He was the guy that initiated this break. He's the one that's been pushing it. And we only have one Soviet rider in there, Nilubin, and he doesn't appear to be strong enough to get up in the front and break up this.
We see him in the red jersey now on the left of the screen. He's the third from the back, and he is not strong enough to disrupt the rhythm here to enable his teammate Ekimov to get back up. Alexei Graywall, of course, is a man noted for one major achievement 5 years ago in Los Angeles. He was the gold medalist for the United States in the Olympic competition.
And Alexei hasn't had a strong...
When Alexei Graywall practices his violin, he knows painfully that to play well requires timing, coordination, and feeling. All these elements came together for him once before when he rode what he calls the perfect race, winning an Olympic gold before the home crowd in Los Angeles in '84, the first ever U.S. road racing gold.
It was the greatest race that I ever ridden, maybe that I'll ever ride. But when it was over, all the excitement and all the pleasure and everything that I got out of it was over the second I crossed the finish line. You know, and then basically the trappings of the world just flew in.
The press attention that focused on Alexei, combined with the rising expectations of the cycling world, changed what should have been a happy time into trauma, leaving Alexei feeling cornered and looking for a release.
A new car can make you happy. Winning a race can make you happy. A good dinner can make you happy. At the same time, losing a race can make you sad. It's circumstance dictated. And I didn't want to be circumstance dictated all my life, so I started searching, and I looked at Buddhism, and I looked at Rajneeshism, and this ism, and that ism, and I wanted to find out the truth.
Though he never finished high school, the obviously bright Graywall took his search for privacy and escape to this A-frame house in the mountains north of Boulder. The house is simply furnished. The only thing you find in the living room besides the stereo are Bibles. Bibles that have become important to Alexei in the last year as a newly reborn Christian.
If you want to know the truth about the whole situation, it's all written, and it just, for me, it brings incredible comfort and incredible peace because I know where to find the answers to any problem that comes up.
Since his gold medal in '84, Alexei has had his fair share of problems. He signed with a top European team after the Olympics, but never really fit, contracted hepatitis, and was forced home. He joined an American team that took him to the Tour de France with high expectations, but they were unfulfilled as he had to abandon the race. In last year's Coors race, he was back, serving as the player coach of a new team and battling his old teammates across the West. But again, angrily and painfully, he came up short. Now this year, he has a new team and a new teammate, Greg LeMond. The question for Graywall after all these years of frustration, does he have it in him? And can he perform for his new bosses?
They hired me to win races and be a contender. They didn't hire me to show up and finish 51st.
The unpredictable Alexei now has the Tour de Trump. Will he play to criticism or applause?
There, into the concert.
So we continue to watch Alexei Graywall having a good day thus far in this second road stage of the Tour de Trump. He is among the leaders who've opened up 22 seconds on the rest of the field. It's a group of 14 or 15, and Graywall stays right near the top. Flashing across the narrow roadway of northern New Jersey, a lead pack of about 25 has separated itself by nearly a minute from the rest of the field, and it appears that the race winner in this second stage of the Tour de Trump will come from this group. Ekimov, the overall race leader from the Soviet Union, has worked his way back up to the head of the pack. He's had a monstrous ride to catch up after early mechanical problems. But all the top power teams are there. Alex Stida currently taking his turn at the front, representing Team 711, long the dominant force in team cycling in the United States. And they have had 4 men in this lead group of 25. We don't know, however, if Greg LeMond and his newly formed Coors ADR team is represented. We've seen Alexei Graywall, his teammate, very prominent near the front of this field on numerous occasions, but we have not seen LeMond at the front.
No, we just learned Alex Stida from 7-Eleven has been very strong in this, but we just heard that Davis Finney had to go back for a bike change, and we're not sure where he is, whether he's caught back up yet or not.
John Vos from Team PDM of the Netherlands taking his turn at the front, opening up a few bike lengths lead. This is not at all uncommon on these narrow roads, but it's interesting to watch the strategy unfold. We're well past the halfway point, and this group seemingly knows now that this is where this race is going to be won or lost. 25 of them now, and you can see water on the roads. The Soviet is there working virtually on his own, and 2 powerful Dutch teams and a powerful American team are there trying to make sure that the overall race leader doesn't steal a second stage in the Tour de Trump.
The amazing story on this one has to be Ekimov. He had his team helping him to attempt to bridge the gap and get him back into that lead group, or up to that lead group. They weren't able to help him. He left the team behind, went after him himself, and was able to close the gap. But in doing so, he pulled with him most of the other top professionals from all the other pro teams.
It would seem that his chances realistically of winning a second stage, when now he is working virtually totally on his own, would be somewhat remote.
Well, he's done so much work. It would be truly amazing if he could pull off a win out of this group. But he's done some pretty amazing things so far. So
he does have 1 Soviet teammate with him in this group of 25, and we saw him just a moment ago ducking in behind that red jersey, trying to get a bit of a breather. Meanwhile, the attack continues, now pushing their way up the hill, and it's just individuals taking one shot after another. And that brilliant pink, easy to spot, of Ekimov. This is Rokes, Dutch rider, who is certainly considered one of the strong favorites, now taking his turn on top, and you can see Ekimov is only 3 men behind. He constantly wants to keep the leader in sight. He just has been relentless in this almost solo individual effort to catch back up.
Ekimov doesn't really have to get in the front and work now, as long as this group keeps moving and they don't let the main group catch them. You'll see him come to the front if the group slows down, but it looks like the pros are going to make it move now.
Theo de Roy, another one of the Dutch riders, or racers, at the front, and this is Ekimov. He has those sunglasses on, and he just doesn't seem to want to give up anything more than the 4th or 5th position. He keeps constantly coming back to the front. He's a tenacious rider. He's been almost bulldog with his approach to this second stage.
Ekimov is going to have to stay near the front and stay fairly on the attack here, because the only other teammate he has in this group is Nelubin, who didn't prove strong, wasn't able to help break it up, couldn't get to the front of the lead pack to help break it up.
Cliff, we see one of the riders looking at something and now putting it back in his pack. Is that like a road map or a course description? What would he have been looking at?
He's checking for where the climbs are, and that was John Tomek. He's the current world mountain bike champion and is excellent on the climbs. So he was checking where that next, we've got one big major climb left.
So we keep watching Dag Lauritsen of Team 711. Dag Otto staying right up there near the front, carrying the 711 collars, and we continue to see this change at the top. Fascinating competition in this, the second road stage in the Tour de Trump. From New Jersey into Pennsylvania, the 3rd state that they have ridden in this day, in this second stage of the Tour de Trump, is the main pack, better than 4 minutes behind the leaders. They ride into Easton, Pennsylvania now, and they're fully aware that there is a threesome that has that huge advantage.
They're aware that they have that threesome out there, and they're a long ways away, but they have not organized into a chase group. They're still sitting back. It looks like they may be waiting for the sprint. They don't have much time left.
They seem to be very, very content. We're down now to less than 20 miles to go in this competition. The three leaders again. It's Luberting at the moment, who has the longer hair streaming out the back, who has the advantage. Curran is second. Dag Otto Lauritsen, the American-based 7-Eleven team, is third. This lead of 4 minutes, and we saw the updated graphic, 4 minutes and 38 seconds, is certainly a very considerable one. Even though there were no major climbs left, and that would, I think, lead very much into the favor of these three men in top.
It would very much. Now, you asked if I could see a weak link in there. The way Curran was riding at that moment looked like he was the weak link.
Now we get a look at Ekimov, the Soviet amateur who won yesterday's first stage. And remember, he had a brilliant ride today from far off the pace after mechanical problems dropped him back. His teammates tried to help pull him up. They caught a main pack, but then virtually on his own, he caught a splinter group of about 25 riders that had pushed into the lead. He may have expended virtually all of his energy in making that push to get back into contention. Right now, he is not in contention, and he is in danger of losing that pink jersey that is the significant indicator of the overall race leader in the Tour de Trump.
The Soviet Nelyubin, who is somewhere halfway between the chase group and these leaders, will advance in position quite a bit if he's not caught. He started today at about 11th position and will come up to maybe 4th or 5th with us.
Having made the move into Pennsylvania through Easton and, of course, the home of former heavyweight boxing champion Larry Holmes, they push on now toward Bethlehem and Allentown, and of course the finish line upcoming at Dorney Park on the outskirts of Allentown, PA. Stage number 2, 123 plus miles, after starting this morning early, and 35 miles of a controlled pace out of New York City, is boiled down, it appears, to a three-man push. The rest of the pack 4.5 minutes back, being encouraged here as they make a climb through the streets of Easton, Pennsylvania, but they have a long, long way to go. Thus far in this American showcase of a great international cycling event, it has been the foreign riders who have stolen the thunder of the Americans. We have not seen an American leader for the most part through this day. There were American challengers, but it is the foreigners right now who have the advantage.
The main group is settled back now. They're waiting for the sprint for 5th position and will not be able to chase him down. It's come down to a three-man race, and it looks like the weak link in that three-man race is Paul Curran. Dag Otto is looking fresh, and Luberting is looking very fresh.
Lauritsen at the head, Luberting in the second spot, and Curran at the moment riding third in this group. Luberting, with his years of experience, we mentioned he's 36 years of age. He's a KG veteran, and perhaps there would be an advantage from that standpoint. But Lauritsen is a strong sprinter, we understand, as well, so it should be very, very interesting as they come across these final miles now, and we get set for a dramatic finish just outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania at Dorney Park. That started in New York City has now progressed into the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania. More than 100 miles ridden in the second stage of the Tour de Trump. Just 20 miles to go. They've been at it now for nearly 5 hours. A breakaway group of 3 men has been pushing the pace for the last 20 plus miles, and these are the 3. It's Henk Luberting, a Dutchman, who has the lead at a moment. An Englishman, Paul Curran, is tucked right in, and a Norwegian who rides for an American team, Dag Otto Lauritsen, is in the 3rd position. They rhythmically exchange their spots on top, and you've been watching them closely, Cliff Halsey, and you think that if there is a weak link, Curran may be in jeopardy here when it comes down to this final 20 miles.
Although Curran is taking all of his pulls, he hasn't gone off short on any of them. His position on the bike indicates that he may be in a little bit of trouble. He's having some trouble getting back on the wheel. You can see him pull hard on the bars to pull back into the slipstream.
Now let's take a look at Lauritsen, who has the lead for the moment. He's the man who has the most to gain in this competition. He came in today 52 seconds off the pace of the overall leader. He was in 11th place. And if these three, as it appears, finish 1, 2, 3 in any order, even if Lauritsen is third, he would become the overall leader of the race, it appears at this point, because the main pack is 4.5 minutes behind these three men. Fascinating story about Dag Otto Lauritsen as we go back and take a look at the rest of the pack. Remember, better than 4.5 minutes back, we see no serious attacks or attempts to pull away to catch those three men who are so very far in front. We started to talk a little bit about Lauritsen because there's a fascinating story there. A former paratrooper who had a very bad accident years ago, and it was only through a rehabilitation program to salvage a knee that he got into cycling.
Lauritsen was a paratrooper in the Norwegian Army and broke a leg and was put on therapy by cycling. And when he got into cycling, he found that he was very good at it and became an international star. He's one of the best cyclists in the world.
You know, if you don't...
On the streets of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the home stretch run of the second stage of the Tour de Trump. Three men continue to battle each other. They've just had brief conferences with their team strategists and coaches who pulled alongside for quick words. We're looking at Henk Lubberding, a Dutchman who has the advantage at the moment, an Englishman, Paul Curran, who is in the middle, and in the third spot, but about to take the middle position, is the Norwegian rider Dag Otto Lauritsen, who rides for the American 7-11 team. They have opened up a very substantial lead. They're better than 3 minutes ahead of two challengers. There is a Soviet rider, Nelubin, and an American rider, young John Tomac, who are 3 minutes and 10 seconds off the pace. The rest of the pack 4 minutes and 22 seconds back at last report. We are down now to approximately the last dozen miles of the race. They have gone 110 miles, and we go back to the pack now to check out and see if there are any attacks or any challenges, or if indeed anyone from this group is going to be able to tighten up and eat in to what has been a basic 4.5 minute advantage for the last several miles. Time definitely seems to be running out for these men in the pack chasing these three men, our leaders.
The surprising thing, Gary, in this is that Coors was not able to launch an attack early on when these guys originally went. They didn't show strength there. Now, the lead group here, the three riders, as I mentioned before, we have Paul Curran, I said, looked a little bit weak. You can notice the style of Lubberding and Dag Otto Lauritsen. They're very smooth on their bikes. You see their upper body move very, very little. You see the movement in the shoulders in Paul Curran. It indicates that he's pulling a little bit harder on his bars to get a little bit more strength into it. He's having a bit more trouble staying with him.
But at this point, he is able to stay with them. Now, there was one brief attack by Lauritsen and Lubberding trying to shake off Curran, but Curran quickly caught back up with them. The three continue to trade their spots as they ride through the streets of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, on the way to nearby Allentown, completing this second stage in the Tour de Trump. They started early in the day in New York City. They have been in the saddles now for nearly 5.5 hours. Just outside Allentown, approaching Dorney Park, the three men who for the last 45 miles have pushed the pace and have settled the lead are now in a showdown as the sprint looms around the corner. Lubberding and Lauritsen have dropped Curran. They've opened up a slight advantage. We have wait for them to come around the final turn. Lubberding has the advantage. Lauritsen on the outside with a spirited bid. Lubberding, I believe, by inches, has won this stage of the Tour de Trump. Henk Lubberding, by inches, holding off Dag Otto Lauritsen for the win. Curran, coming through, will finish third. There's a West German rider who appears to be in the fourth spot. We're watching a pack finish sprint now for the number 5 position. Davis Finney leading it out. He may have a shot at 5th place as the top American finisher, but here comes Eric van der Arden, the Belgian rider. Van der Arden making his bid now alongside Finney. It's going to be a battle right to the wire. This is for 5th place, and van der Arden gets the sprint win for 5th place, just as he did earlier. He won the mid-race time sprint bonus. It was not Roberto Gaggioli, who we thought a bit earlier in the competition. But the big story, of course, Lubberding holding off that last gasp challenge from Lauritsen to get the win. Finney, the top American finisher, at 6th, and yesterday's stars Ekimov and Tunese, visible early in the day, not among the top finishers here today. Let's go back now to New York, where it all began hours ago, as we check back with Dick Enberg.
So the pink jersey for the leader, worn today at the start by the Soviet Ekimov, and he gave it another good ride today, is handed over to 7-Eleven's Lauritsen. The winner of today's stage, however, the 36-year-old oldest man in the competition, Luberding of the Netherlands. But the former paratrooper, Lauritsen, has landed safely in pink in Allentown, and he's with Greg Lewis.
All right, D'Agato second in the sprint, but first now in the GC. This must have been a very, very satisfying ride for you today.
Yeah, it was a good ride for the whole team, 7-Eleven, and I'm happy to be second today, but the most important is to have the leader's jersey.
You stayed away for almost 2 hours. Was there any question in that lead group of 3 that you could or couldn't stay away?
No, in the beginning I was a little bit worried, but I thought if we go there was rolling hills, and before the last climb, we thought we could stay away to the last climb, and then maybe a little group should come up. But it looks like they didn't go hard enough behind, and we stayed away all the time.
You're 32 years old. Luberding is 36. Kern is 28. That's an old group. Was this a race for wise men as opposed to young men?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm 32, but I feel young in my body, and I started cycling when I was 24, so I think I still have a lot of years to go.
Will 7-Eleven ride for you now? Are you the man that they want to protect in this race?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm in the lead, so they will definitely control the race for me.
All right, D'Agato Lauritsen, he comes to a town with a great amusement park, but getting here was the best ride of his life.
So we check now the results of today's second stage in the Tour de Trump. Luberding and Lauritsen in a virtual photo finish for the victory. Curran 4 seconds back. Van der Arden, Finney, and Ekimov farther on down the line. Now the overall standings show Lauritsen as your new leader. Luberding is 14 seconds back. Note that Ekimov is now 2:43 off the pace. Here are your top Americans: Finney, Hampston, Lamont, all over 4 minutes. Graywall at 51st, 4.5 back.
So a long, tough, exciting day of racing is concluded in the Tour de Trump. Light rain now falling here in New York City as we approach the hour of 6 o'clock. 7 more days, 7 tough stages of racing left to go before the finale 1 week from today on Mother's Day in Atlantic City along the wooden boardwalk. And there are some items still to consider. One is Greg LeMond. Is he prophetic with his comments today that he may be saving something? He is 4 minutes plus behind the leader, Lauritsen, but one must remember that in 1986 he rallied from behind and won the famed Tour de France, and maybe he indeed can eat up a bunch of minutes in one great ride. And it is a team sport, and 7-Eleven is sitting with Lauritsen in the overall lead, and they have a couple of trump cards in Davis Finney, who is currently 12th, less than 4 minutes off the pace, and also the very talented Andy Hampston. A lot of Revolutionary Civil War history they'll ride through the next week. Wind up at Atlantic City, and we'll see you there at 3 o'clock Eastern Time next week. It's been called a sport of speed demons and daredevils. These are men who ride on risk, all for a slice of glory and fame. This is the 1989 Tour de Trump, already America's greatest bicycle race. It's a showcase of some of the top world-class professionals and amateurs from 19 countries. The sentimental favorite, America's Greg LeMond, the winner of the 1986 Tour de France, but he suffered through a slew of uncommon injuries in the past 3 years. The leader is Norway's Dag Otto Lauritsen. He's supported by the strong 7-Eleven team, and this is a team hungry for a home win. Lauritsen's #1 challenge, this man, Belgian Eric van der Arden, one of the world's best and craftiest. The amateur class of the field is Soviet superstar Vyacheslav Ekimov. He's already gained the respect of the pros. America's top contender, Davis Finney. His power and sprint are ideally suited to the rolling terrain and the intense pace. Much tougher than any of the stars of this sport had anticipated.
I am very surprised at how difficult this race has been. I mean, we thought about a 10-day tour of the East Coast, yeah, sure, that should be okay, but this has been nothing like we expected. Every day it's been hard. The racing's been hard. The terrain has been hard.
It's been an incredible trek through the historic Northeast with its reminders of Revolutionary and Civil War times. And although Mother Nature has not smiled every day, even fog and rain could not dampen the picturesque photo album experience, even for the hardest of veterans. The pastoral beauty and charm of this part of America serve as reminders that the Northeast is not simply a collection of large, bustling cities, but also of country green and rural charm. Of course, for the competitors, beauty is but a second thought, for they must maintain focus on the matter at hand, overall victory. This is not 9 innings and in the clubhouse or 2 20-minute halves or best 3 of 5 sets. It's hours, it's days, hundreds of miles of endless effort. The Tour de Trump is also a paradoxical mix of tradition and technology, of cyclists riding on space-age bikes, challenged by Civil War-era roads. Cyclist aims to be first over the line each day. The overall winner of the 1989 Tour de Trump will be the most consistent man over the 816 miles of this course. Today's climax, a 24-mile sprint, man against the clock, the test of truth. The winner is the one man who crosses the finish line with the best overall time. But big-time bicycle stage racing is also a team sport, and the winner is as much a reflection of his team's value as of his own ability. Each champion backed up by a cohort of teammates and coaches, people who dedicate their lives to supporting champions. It's the protection and the shared work of the pack, teammates and opponents working at times in a common effort. And it's man alone in tough climbs, testing lonely inner will. And so, the fascinating world of bicycle racing. A mixture of strength, speed, danger, excitement, dazzling beauty, intriguing combinations of individual and team effort, of brute force and remarkable finesse, all packaged in the second richest race in the world. NBC Sports presents the Tour de Trump. In Atlantic City, New Jersey, it's partly sunny and 60 degrees for Stage 10, the final test of the 816 miles, 10 days of this inaugural Tour de Trump. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the boardwalk. It's a 24-mile time test today, man against the clock, an individual time trial that will begin and end on the boardwalk behind me in front of the Trump Plaza. 10 days ago, there were 114 of the world's best cyclists who began the Tour de Trump. Only 87 remain, and now they're down to the championship test. $50,000 goes to the best overall time today. That is the richest ever cycling event in the history of the United States. And the leader is Dag Otto Lortzen, the Norwegian paratrooper who rides for the American 7-11 team. He took a sizable lead, as you saw a week ago on NBC Sports, on the stage from New York City to Allentown, Pennsylvania. But it has slowly eroded away under the hard charge of one of the brilliant sprinters in the world, Eric van der Arden of the Panasonic team. Van der Arden has cut his lead to just 50 seconds and has said that he feels he can make up that time today. We'll see. And to show you how competitive this Tour de Trump has been for the team title. Now, they have raced for 32 and a half hours these past 10 days, and the top two teams are separated by 1 second. Panasonic leads the 7-11 team. That's the Davis-Finney-starred team by just 1 second. Well, to give you more insights into this final day of competition, let's go to our NBC racing experts, Gary Gerald and Cliff Halsey.
Well, Dick, no question it's boiled down to a two-man showdown after nearly 800 miles of racing through 9 long stages. Lawrenson has had that leader's jersey for a week now. Van der Arden chasing. He's 50 seconds back in 3rd place overall. The question, Cliff Halsey, can he make up 50 seconds in this 24-mile solo effort against the clock?
Well, Eric is an excellent time trialist. He was able to win the time trial 2 days ago. 50 seconds is possible, but Doug Otto is an excellent time trialist as well. He's very strong. This course may suit him a bit better.
We should point out that there's a Dutch rider, Henk Luberding, in 2nd place. He's 28 seconds back. He's not considered a strong time trialist, so if he were to get the win, that would be an upset. Let's talk quickly about the Americans. Davis-Finney has led the American charge here. He's been brilliant the last 2 days.
Well, Davis had some trouble in the early stages. He didn't climb as well as the Europeans, although in the last 2 stages he's been able to win on his sprinting abilities. He should do very well today, although I don't expect, he's not a great time trialist. He shouldn't be able to improve his position, but I don't think he'll lose any.
Now, there were many who were hoping that Greg LeMond would have a great Tour de Trump. Instead, for Greg, it's been a tour of frustration.
For Greg LeMond, it has been a hard week. He was very sick early in the week, as well as all of his team was very sick. They weren't able to help him. In the end of the stages, though, he's been doing much better. He's feeling more confident about the rest of the year. He's a great time trialist and should do very well today, although it won't really help his final standing.
Just as they had expected, the pros have dominated this competition with one exception. That's the Soviet rider Ekimov. He's been on the podium on 4 different occasions.
Vyacheslav Ekimov is a dream to watch. He's a tremendous amateur, an excellent time trialist, one of the best in the world. And I expect he'll do very well today, although he missed a crucial stage in the Allentown to Gettysburg race, and it cost him time that he has never been able to make up.
Now, keeping track of all of these key riders and all of the others here in the start-finish area is our own Greg Lewis.
Thanks, Gary. Well, from the Brickyard to the boardwalk, it's a day in sport for time trials, except here in Atlantic City, these are the exotic racing machines which cycling mechanics have been preparing with all the care of an Indy pit crew. And here, these machines don't run on horsepower, but manpower. These 2 pistons, which have been in training for a lifetime to tune up for today's race against that right back there, the clock. Now, in the previous 6 road races, 1 criterium and 1 circuit race, team tactics have played a very big role in determining who would win or lose. But today, it's an individual time trial, 1 man on the course at a time, and it's his individual ability to endure, to have power and speed, and to deal with enormous suffering that will determine the winner on a course that is largely flat, but as Dick Enberg knows, can be affected by wind.
Greg, the cyclists know all about bad weather in this Tour de Trump. This past week has been a real test for them. Lots of rain and wind. Today, basically a sea breeze off the Atlantic. It'll be an aid to them coming home the final mile. What wind there is will be at their back. They won't have to worry about what race officials thought would be a hazard, and that's the pigeons and the seagulls that occupy the area and go on their Sunday scavenger hunts along the boardwalk. There's enough activity today that the birds have been chased to the water. Now let's take a look at the 24-mile course, a flat course running along Atlantic City's boardwalk, through the city, and eventually across the Brigantine Bridge and through the island of Brigantine. And then it'll circle back, basically the same course to the boardwalk. The boardwalk wooden and rough, and the cyclists have been warned.
Well, a ripple of excitement along the Atlantic City boardwalk as one of the foremost names in American cycling takes his spot now at the start line. Greg LeMond making final preparations as he gets set now for this, the final stage in the Tour de Trump. And as we had mentioned earlier, it has been basically a tour of frustration for LeMond, a former world champion and, of course, a former winner of the Tour de France. He has been sick, but he is right now ready to go. Let's watch him roll away. 24 miles yet ahead. Down the ramp onto the boardwalk to the cheers of the throngs here along the Atlantic Ocean. Greg LeMond is now away. And Cliff Halsey, he has some very high hopes. He is hoping that he can come back and show some of the past form that has made him one of the renowned names in cycling in this 24-mile challenge today.
That's right. Greg is trying to do a couple of things today. He's had a very difficult week, as we know. The entire Coors Light team has been sick all week. He has not performed well in the early stages. He says he's feeling better. He's trying to prove to his sponsors and to the American public that he can come back and ride well this year.
He has not had anything to talk about in the last 3 years. Of course, his injuries and the shooting accident, the appendectomy, the tendonitis in the knees, all have been well chronicled. He came on strong at Arlington just a couple of days ago with his first visit to the victor's podium. He had a third-place finish, and certainly his wife Kathy being there helped spur him on, and his confidence level, I think, Cliff, has really taken a positive step forward in the last 48 hours.
He's feeling much better. He's feeling strong. He feels like in this event, in the time trial, which he is very good at, he should be able to come back and take quite a bit of time back in, but he's not going to get to the leaders. That's impossible. But he should have an excellent day today, and we expect him to ride in the top 3.
24 miles, 28 turns, leaving the boardwalk shortly, going out onto the circuit leading to Brigantine Island. It's a long solo venture for each one of these men, capping off 10 stages in the Tour de Trump. Here's his Coors teammate. This is Alexei Greywolf, Olympic gold medalist of 1984. The time behind reflects his overall placing in the standing. He has not been a factor this week. As we mentioned, sickness and illness has been something that the Coors team has had to live with through the early stages. All now feeling much better. Alexei hoping that perhaps he can surprise some of those today and challenge among the leaders. He was one of the early men to leave and is now well out on the circuit. You can see the waters in the background. They're just literally, in some instances, blocks away from the Atlantic Ocean.
The team, as we said, has been sick all week. The entire team has been sick. They've lost a couple of riders. They've not been able to finish in the 20-minute time limit, haven't abandoned. They've gotten sick. Alexei's had a very difficult week. He did attempt in the middle of the week in some of the mountain stages to take some initiative in the races, but he was not able to hold it up. He became weak and finished well in the back of the pack.
Yeah, we're back watching Greg LeMond. He's hoping that perhaps today he can come up and join the victor on the podium. He'll be trying to set the standard for the rest of the field to beat.
Greywall and LeMond are out on the course. The estimates have them out there about 50 to 55 minutes to complete the 24-mile tour around Atlantic City and finishing back here on the boardwalk. LeMond began 47th. It's been a disappointing Tour de Trump for him. He'll leave for Belgium tomorrow and start training for the Tour de Italy that begins in a couple of weeks, and then Tour de France, of course, in July. But he has improved the latter stages of this Tour de Trump. We'll see how he does today. We can say already that this first Tour de Trump has been an unqualified success. And there are hundreds of thousands of fans in the cities and in the country who would support that. Their support, the fan support, has been enormous. And it goes down to the cyclists themselves. I think they underestimated just how tough, how challenging, and how exciting this race would be. 10 stages, and it all began a week ago Friday in New York. 9 days, 5 states, and nearly 800 miles ago, 114 men began the Tour de Trump in the heart of New York's capital city, Albany. The first race, a 2-mile individual time trial, a short but exacting test to establish the first overall leader in U.S. cycling's richest race. And one of the first stars down the ramp, American Davis Phinney, twice a Tour de France stage winner and last year's Coors Classic champion. Much more than a fine sprinter now, Phinney can climb well and power on the flats. Time trial, solid as well. His time here, good, but not great. A gray sky went black and rain pounded the pavement as Eric van der Arden charged out of the blocks. The weather abysmal at the Empire State Plaza, but van der Arden, a Belgian, is comfortable in these at-home conditions. 4 seconds faster than Phinney. Vyacheslav Ekimov, the Soviet amateur and the '88 Olympic champion, now in a meaningful confrontation with the world's best professionals. Holder of nearly every world track cycling record, Ekimov is rightfully called the fastest amateur cyclist on the planet. An auspicious beginning for the 23-year-old from Leningrad. U.S. star Greg LeMond to center stage, the only American ever to win cycling's crown jewel, the Tour de France. LeMond, known as a sensational time trialist. While 2 years of accidents and injuries have slowed the 27-year-old from Carson City, Nevada, his reputation tough to beat on his home soil. Time, slow, disappointingly so. Apparently all was not yet right for the man who was the king of this sport just 3 years ago. North Carolinian Tom Craven was one of the early starters. The roads were dry then, and Craven shot fearlessly through the corners. Less than 2 years ago, Craven was on a bike shop team, a man who dreamed of someday racing with the stars on his cycling posters in his room. On this day of dreams, he beat them all to become the first racer ever to earn the neon pink race leader's jersey of the Tour de Trump. Now, stage one in serious road racing began in Albany. And a sunny Saturday smiled on Tom Craven. Davis Finney chatted with a couple of captains of government and finance. The race was off, a cavalcade of 110 vehicles and 114 racers. The first climb of the day would prove to be one of the hardest of the entire race. Dutch pro Gert Janssenies made it look easy as he led the way over the steep grade of jagged pavement. And just behind the surprising Soviet Ekimov, everyone knew he was fast on the flats, but no one expected such strength here. After 110 miles, the lead group arrived in New Paltz. Watch the man in red like a comet. It's Ekimov. He climbed well, he endured, and he sprinted. A stage win, and the overall lead were his high reward. In the shadows of the Plaza Hotel and the budding trees of Central Park, Stage 2 began in New York City for this exceptional field of 8 pro teams and 11 amateur squads. A controlled start meant a 35-mile promenade through Manhattan over the George Washington Bridge into New Jersey. An all-important breakaway of 3 emerged. The benefactor, Norwegian Dag Otto Lauritsen of the 7-Eleven team. Into Pennsylvania, Lauritsen and Dutch pro Henk Luperding rolled toward Dorney Amusement Park in Allentown. Luperding took the sprint for the stage win, but more importantly, Lauritsen, because of his faster total time after 3 races, had the overall lead. For 7 days and 8 races, the best would chase, but Lauritsen would remain the man in pink. Stage of the Tour de Trump, and the top American going into this 10th stage is Davis Finney. He has won, in fact, the last 2 stages. A brilliant sprinter, and he's ready to go down the ramp.
Poised on the starting block, awaiting the final count to get underway in this 10th and final stage of the Tour de Trump. Here's the American hero of the moment, Davis Finney, who has won the last 2 stages. He is considered an excellent time trialist, but he's a better sprinter. And with 24 miles to go, he is not given a great chance of winning the competition. He's in 5th place overall, and now he's ready to roll. Tremendous support here on the boards at Atlantic City for Finney, who has been very much a cycling hero in this country. He won the Arlington Circuit race 2 days ago, and then yesterday in Baltimore, he won the Criterium. He finally shook off all of the problems that he had been facing from Eric van der Arden, who had managed to outsprint him in earlier duels. But now Finney, enjoying the glory of the moment, is out and pedaling furiously. He'll be on the boards for about a mile or so before he briefly turns inland, then over the bridge onto Brigantine Island. Let's go down now to the start line, and Greg Lewis is standing by with the other half of the Finney family, a renowned cyclist in her own right. Greg?
Thank you, Gary. I'm with Connie Carpenter, who is, of course, Connie Carpenter Finney. Now, with 2 victories in the last 2 races, what does Davis expect from himself in this time trial? Not his specialty.
No, it certainly isn't his specialty, and he was a little disappointed with his last time trial, and he really thought he might lose as much as 3 minutes today on some of his competitors. But I think after the good performances of the last 2 days, he feels like he can be competitive today. But, of course, the real interest is with what Doug can do.
A new piece of equipment for the 7-Eleven team, handlebars, Tell us about those.
Well, just last week when Davis was home, he tried out these new handlebars that, of course, all the triathletes are using. They make you more aerodynamic. They let you relax your arms a little bit more and let you use your legs better. And they're called Profiles for Speed, and all the guys have put them on their bikes today. It's kind of an experiment, but I think it might pay off.
Thank you, Connie Carpenter. Let's go back to Gary Gerald.
And quickly now out onto the course, we see Greg LeMond passing one of the Soviet amateurs. And when we last saw LeMond, he was also passing a teammate who had started a minute in front of him. So apparently this may be a very strong ride for LeMond. He is now back on the boards. He's making the final push toward home. And at the moment, the time to beat, according to our latest numbers, was a time set by Sean Yates, an Englishman who rides for the American-based 7-Eleven team, 52 minutes, 11 and 36/100 seconds. Meanwhile, now we go back to the starting block as we await LeMond's arrival, and this is Eric van der Arden. He is very much the man of the moment. He is the man who has a chance of unseating Dag Otto Lorenzen as the overall leader. He's a Belgian rider for the Dutch Panasonic team. He's 27 years of age. He has won 4 stages of this competition within the past week, and he also had a second-place finish. And right now, he's gearing himself for his specialty. He is very much the man to beat. Can he catch Lorenzen? He has 50 seconds to make up over the next 24 miles as we watch him roll away from the Trump Plaza Hotel on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. Now coming back to Greg LeMond. He continues his kick. He is now well within a half mile of the finish. We see him coming up along one of the neighboring hotels, rolling along now, exhorted by the crowd. LeMond, who was on the winner's podium just 2 days ago at Arlington, Virginia, outside the nation's capital, passing still another man who had started in front of him, and Greg LeMond being urged on by the crowd. Nearing the finish now. His number is not posted on the timing index. We may not immediately know. Now we are seeing the number. It is not good enough to get the victory. He is going to be among the leaders. Final count. Henk Lubberding, second in the overall classification, 28 seconds behind the overall leader, Dag Otto Lorenzen. Henk Lubberding, at age 36, one of the true veterans of the sport, comes from the Netherlands. 12 stage wins in Europe over the past half-dozen years. He's not considered a real strong time trial rider, but of course he could stun everyone if he could come up with the effort of a lifetime. He has 28 seconds to make up over the 24 miles, and perhaps he could be the surprise winner. Alexei Greywall, who started well in front of Greg LeMond, is just now making his finishing appearance. He rolls across the starting line, and he is far off the pace that was established by the early leaders. It's been a frustrating week, a frustrating Tour de Trump for the former Olympic gold medalist Alexei Greywall. Still to come, overall race leader Dag Otto Lorenzen.
On the course now, and the battle is on. Can Lorenzen hold on to that 50-second lead under the charge of van der Arden, who has chipped away day by day, stage by stage? And how well will Davis Phinney do in Atlantic City as well in this final 24-mile sprint? It's the equivalent of track and field's 5,000 meters. How much will the body bear? How hard can you push it? Well, it has been a most exciting time for us in many ways. And if you have even a touch of historical feeling in your soul, you would have loved this past week on the Tour de Trump. We're going to share not only the racing with you, but some wonderful historical moments as well. Let's go back to Monday.
Stage 3. Springtime in Pennsylvania, but on this day an unseasonably cold drizzle and 46-degree temperatures made it feel like early March in Belgium. This stage would include 2 big climbs, but at the start, racers worried more about simply keeping warm. Eastern Pennsylvania has a strong German heritage, but flags of all nations were waving. Norwegian flags for Dag Otto Lorenzen. Also a show of support for the Soviets, led by Vyacheslav Ekimov and sponsored by an American pizza maker. 1984 Olympic champ Alexei Greywall was caped like a soldier of the Middle Ages, but he was barely feeling healthy enough to finish, let alone do battle. His teammate Greg LeMond was no better, in fact worse. This was not the face of a hard-driving champion. But despite illness, rain, and temperatures 21 degrees below normal, the colorful field was ready to roll on for 116 miles from Allentown in the Lehigh Valley to Pennsylvania's capital of Harrisburg. Ahead were the rolling farmlands of eastern Pennsylvania and a climb toward the famed bird sanctuary of Hawk Mountain. The racers say the third day is always the toughest. Aching muscles cried for sunshine, but there was none to be found. In the pack, the long flowing mane of Hank Luberding was easy to pick out, especially after his strong showing the day before. Andy Hampston, who proved his cold weather mastery last year by winning the Tour of Italy, looked calm and relaxed. There was Lawrenson with the pink race leader's jersey hidden beneath a toasty long-sleeve team jacket. Pink jersey or no, everyone knew he was a man to watch. This part of Pennsylvania is home to some 200,000 Amish. Some ventured near the route for a first-hand look. For Gert-Jan Tunis, not a speck of body fat to help combat the cold. But on this day, nothing seemed to bother the Dutch Greyhound. And Ekimov, still not intimidated by the pros, very much in the hunt for the $50,000 top prize. It was only the fourth day of the race, but already
on the course to try to determine what has actually happened to Eric van der Arden. One of our motorcycle consorts out on the course, when he came back in, told us this rumor that Eric van der Arden has actually gone off the course. Now, there's lots of reason today to be suspicious because Davis Finney, who is not considered a strong time trialer, had the fastest time at the halfway mark. The race started late today because they were having difficulty getting course marshals out on the course, and so it is a possibility that many of the riders have missed this full layout and have taken shortcuts or, in fact, gone a longer route.
the possibility of controversy now looms very large as we watch Davis Finney. We had a report that at the 12-mile halfway point, he was some 20 seconds faster than Eric van der Arden and had the fastest halfway time of the competition. Finney was not expected to be that strong on this circuit, but of course he has been pumped up by back-to-back victories over the past 2 days. He continues his push at this time as he's now on the return leg. Most of the top names will be finishing here very shortly. Let's go back down now into the start-finish area and check in once again with Greg Lewis and see if he indeed has further information.
All right, Gary, thank you. Mike Plant, what can you tell us at this point about this incident with Eric van der Arden?
Well, apparently Eric van der Arden was given a clear signal to go through a turn. There were cones on a turn. I'm assuming he went too fast. He went through the cones and got on the other side of the course. It took him approximately 100 meters to turn the bike back around. I had marshals and security people out there that were advising him, honking horns, saying that to turn the bike around, you're not on the course, and it was not any fault that I can see of our technical people in that. I'll have to find out more when they get back in here.
Well, an amazing turn of events here on the final stage of the Tour de Trump. Meanwhile, Davis Finney making his push now toward home. Van der Arden, of course, was 50 seconds behind the overall leader coming into this day. The overall leader, Nagano Lawrenson. And we see Van der Arden. He is back on course at this time. He was 50 seconds behind starting the day. The question now was how much time did he lose? Would he in fact face the possibility of being suspended from the competition or after the or disqualified, we should say, after that little venture off course? He is back on course at this time and determinedly forging on now, trying to gain back anything that he may have lost. Remember, there's an individual prize of $50,000 at stake to the overall leader. Lawrenson, Luberding, and Van der Arden, the top three spots coming in today. Davis Finney was in 5th position, and Finney now is nearing the conclusion of this controversy or the conclusion of this event. He's not involved in the controversy. He's hoping that somehow he can continue his push to another spot on the victor's podium following back-to-back wins the last 2 days. The finish line not far away. He's within his last mile. At the moment, the time to beat is held by his teammate Ron Kiefel, 51 minutes, 27 and 64 hundredths seconds. Finney continues his push. Meanwhile, behind him, yet to get to the return trip on the boardwalk, is Eric van der Arden. Controversy very much a part of the story now, as van der Arden was off course a bit earlier. We've heard the possible implications. What effect it'll have in the final standings is yet to unfold. He was the leader at the halfway point on the split, but he is not going to be on the podium, it appears now. He crosses the line in 11th place. Certainly the incentive of that $50,000, the determination from what we know of Eric van der Arden, may well have led to that lapse where he attacked the corner too quickly and got off course.
He was going after this with everything he had. The money to him is tremendous. For his sponsors to go home as the winner of the second richest race in the world, a great race in the United States, the best we've had ever. And he was hoping to go home with this victory, the first major stage race victory he would have. He had a great shot at it, but it may have diminished now with that. If he can pull back the time it took to turn around and the 50 seconds, it would be an incredible feat.
And you can't help but wonder if any of that information may have been relayed to Dag Otto Lorenzen. Remember, they start in reverse order. Lorenzen was the last man to leave the starting block. And right now, we await the final sprint. After more than 50 minutes on the bike, nearly an hour, Eric van der Arden, with his hopes riding in the balance, after an excursion, a tour off course, is now down to the last few meters, making the push. Coming on down, being urged on by the crowd. He crosses the line. 54 minutes, 3 seconds. It is not good enough to get a top 3 spot at the moment. But how much may he have gained on Lorenzen? We'll find out in just a moment. We're watching now Dag Otto Lorenzen, the overall leader of the Tour de Trump. He took the lead from the Soviet amateur Vyacheslav Ekimov a week ago today on the leg from New York City into Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley. He has not surrendered the race leader's jersey since that time. And now he knows that he must get in somewhere in the vicinity of 53.5 minutes, 54 minutes to protect the advantage that he had over Eric van der Arden. Van der Arden off course, disappointedly finishing at just over 54 minutes. So certainly that gives Dag Otto Lorenzen a little bit of a cushion. We look now at the second place overall rider coming into this day, Henk Lubberding, now back to Lorenzen. Any comment on his riding style, Cliff?
Dag Otto is riding very strong. He's laboring a bit over the bike, and again, I think he doesn't seem to be comfortable on those bars. They should have had a bit of time to practice with those.
Let's go down now into the finish area. Greg Lewis is standing by where we see Eric van der Arden. No, we don't have the interview at this point.
Thank you, Gary. Eric van der Arden here trying to strip down and get some liniments put on his body, and obviously very emotional about the incident that occurred out on the course. We're trying to get into him here. Eric, can you tell us what happened? Eric van der Arden refusing right now to speak to us, and it's obvious that he is extremely emotional and in tears here. In a moment, we hope that he'll be able to collect himself. Right now, let's go back to Gary Gerald.
And we continue to watch Dag Otto Lorenzen. He is now just moments away from the finish. He may have well received a great bonus when his chief competitor went off course. And now we await the arrival of Dag Otto Lorenzen. He's been the leader for over a week. And to the cheers of a crowd, yes, he has done it, and he has done it convincingly. 52 minutes, 19 and 26 seconds. That will not be good enough to put him among, or to get the victory in this final stage, but it is certainly good enough to overcome the effort by van der Arden. Make no mistake, the overall winner. After more than 800 miles and 10 stages of the Tour de Trump, the rider with the number 4 on the hip, Dag Otto Lorenzen.
In sport, there's agony in hurtful times as well, and so it is with cycling, and Eric van der Arden tastes that feeling today. He's with Greg Lewis.
Eric, I know this is a very, very difficult moment for you. Will you tell us what happened out there? Eric?
I don't know what happened. I go just straight ahead and I must be on the right side. That's all.
Was it your fault or was it someone else's fault?
No, nobody stands on the road and I'm just going. And nobody call to me or nothing. They say nothing. I'm just going.
You told me that you were going to look at the course this morning once. Did you do that?
Yeah, I do that, but it was so many corners. You don't know the circuit by your head.
Were you confused when you got to that corner about what was coming up?
No, I just going and maybe 500-600 meters, and then coming a guy with the motor, and he said, "You're not good."
Obviously, what happened there has cost you this race.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know, but I think so.
Are you going to file some kind of protest?
Yeah, it's too late. It's nothing that you can do.
Well, Eric van der Arden, it's a sad way for this race to finish for you, but you have been a brilliant performer throughout, and we hope to see you again in the Tour de Trump.
Yeah, I hope so.
So a bitter ending for van der Arden in the 10th and final stage, won by Ron Kiefel. Teammate Sean Yates nearly 43 seconds back in second. Lawrenson finishing fourth. Le Mans in the top 10, followed by Finney. But the overall winner of the big money, Dag Otto Lawrenson, by nearly 2 minutes over Dutchman Henk Luberding. And down the line, we see Le Mans finishing far off the pace. Let's go back to Greg Lewis now with our overall winner of Tour de Trump.
Trump, $50,000 first place prize. This has to be one of the finest moments in your racing career.
Yeah, I don't think about the money, but it's so great to win the race, and I say thank you to the whole team, because the team has been great. I could never done it without 7-Eleven.
Are you aware of the problems that Eric van der Arden had out there on the course?
No, I don't know, but I just had secondation, and I heard I was gaining time on him. I don't know what sort of problems he had.
Eric van der Arden apparently went down a hill and into a curve too fast and actually went outside the markings of the course and had to turn around and come back. Did you yourself have any problems understanding the course and which way to go?
No, I was coming a little bit fast in some corners, but I never missed any corners, so I was okay.
You did good today. You were great. You didn't miss anything this whole Tour de Trump. Congratulations again.
Thank you, and thank you to the team. That's for sure.
Lawrenson said it well. Thank you to the team, and it is a team victory. $50,000 plus the $10,000 prize for the top team. 60 will be divided equally amongst the 6 team members. $10,000 plus some added money for the bonus sprints. Dag Otto Lawrenson is the first champion of the Tour de Trump, and the U.S. team 7-Eleven celebrates with him. And we conclude, say goodbye for all of us at NBC Sports. It has been a vigorous and rigorous, ambitious effort covering this great event. So long from Atlantic City, New Jersey.